Before adopting the child my sister wanted to adopt. I'm 34 and have two sisters, Amy 36, F and Jane 31. Amy and her husband have been trying to conceive for the better part of a decade, but nothing seems to be working for them. 2 years ago, they went for another round of IVF, but sadly Amy miscarried once again. Due to the complications following this miscarriage, she became sterile. This, of course, devastated her and her husband because they really wanted to start a family of their own. They are now looking into adoption, but it's a long and slow process since Amy's husband has a criminal record from when he was 19. A year ago, my sister Jane gave birth to her son Sam. The pregnancy was the result of a one-night stand Jane had during her vacation in Italy. Although it was unexpected and the father wouldn't be the picture, Jane decided to keep the baby. Sadly, Jane had a stroke when Sam was 6 and passed away. It was very unexpected and most of the family is still grieving. After the funeral, we started to discuss who will take Sam, and my parents were out of the question since they are too old and won't be able to take care of him. So it was between Amy and I. Amy jumped at the opportunity and volunteered to take Sam, and although this seemed to be the ideal solution at first, the way Amy spoke about the adoption didn't sit right with me. She wanted to change Sam's name and surname and asked us not to mention Jane around Sam after the adoption would be finalized. Essentially, Amy wanted to raise Sam as her own and didn't think telling him his bio mom passed away would do him any good. To me, this felt like Amy was trying to erase Jane's memory. It was treating her like some surrogate and not a sister whom she lost. After much consideration, I didn't like the idea that Sam would grow up without knowing who his bio mother was, and although I already have 5 children of my own, I decided to contest the adoption and volunteered to adopt him instead. We went to court, and it was recently determined that my wife and I would be adopting Sam, and he is furious at me and is calling me an asshole for ruining her chances at becoming a mother. She is saying that I already have many children of my own, so I don't understand how badly she wants to become a parent. Some relatives are now calling me selfish for taking this chance away from Amy and are telling me that instead of thinking of what would be better for Sam, I was thinking about how to preserve the memory of Jane. Although I don't regret adopting Sam, I'm starting to doubt whether I made the right decision for his future. I know that Amy would have made a great mother, and that both of her and her husband would absolutely adore Sam, and as their only child, they would probably be able to provide him a better life financially. However, them wanting to erase all memories of Jane just doesn't feel right. I'm dyslexic and writing this from my phone, so I apologize for any grammar mistakes I might have made. AITA for asking my husband not to text his best friend's wife anymore. I 29 have met my now husband 35 and 6 years ago. Let's call my husband Tim his best friend Gabby and his best friend's wife Kate 36. Tim and Doug have been best friends for 15 years. Tim has said he does not like Kate but still wants to hang out with Doug, so he accepts Kate's behavior. Kate is a very domineering person who is repeatedly bad-mouthed and unused with Doug in front of us at times, asking us to take her side. We started looking for a house in 2021. I told him not to tell Doug since we were in early phases of house hunting. Tim told Doug anyway. What Kate had just started working for a real estate agent and said we should work with her new boss. We told her we would think about it, and within a day she scheduled a meeting for us with her boss and argued with us when we said we still weren't sure about moving forward with her boss as our real estate agent. We agreed and ended up having a very big experience with her boss as our real estate agent. We couldn't back out because we didn't want Kate's job to be impacted. When we had an offer or a house, tension arose between us and our real estate agent because the agent wanted us to offer more money when there were no other offers. During this time, Kate texted Tim behind my back and said he needs to control me and I'm being unreasonable. I was very upset when I found out. We did end up getting the house by staying firm with our original offer. But Aunt Kate apologized to us. The apology was not sincere, but we accepted. Tim and I got engaged in 2022 at dinner with Kate, and the real estate was brought up, and I said I wish we had a different agent. Kate flipped out and said she wanted to leave. She made everyone leave, and Tim left with Kate and Doug. I had to give the home alone. I told Tim that if he ever leaves me behind again, I'm leaving it. I felt that he chose Kate and Doug over me, and that Kate disrespected me in the past by texting Tim behind my back during the real estate transaction. Tim promised he would never do it again and explained he was embarrassed that I brought up the real estate transaction a year later. Tim and I moved past it and got married in October 2023. Kate did not attend, and Doug still came as Tim's best man. I haven't seen or spoken to Kate since that dinner in 2022. Kate still privately texts him. She will text him about her show she's watching or about Doug. I told Tim today that I do not like her texting him after everything that happened. There's no reason for her to be private texting her husband's best friend, and especially after she talked bad about me to him in the past. Tim thinks it's not a big deal. Dad talks crap about Kate to Tim on a regular basis. Tim talks crap about Kate to me on a regular basis. Error and TA for telling him to ignore Kate's texts and only text Doug. Hated for being rude to my boyfriend after he withheld sizzle from me. My F-27 boyfriend and 30 are currently on vacation with his family. I have volunteered to cook most nights because I love to cook and I'm the best at it out of the entire group. This evening I was making a dish for everyone and I asked my boyfriend to please get me an array of seasonings for this specific dish: MSG, soy sauce, pepper. He then said, if you're using MSG, do you really need salt? To which I explained that MSG is not salty, as 1/3 of sodium content. Regular salt, and that dishes, if they are using MSG, will still typically require salt. I was cooking outside when we griddle and the dish comes together quickly, so I was not able to go back to grab any additional seasonings. I realized shortly afterward that he did not include salt, just 3 of the 4 things I requested. When asked it, he said we didn't need it. I tried the food and it was bland, so he then proceeded to put an additional soy sauce, which it did not need. It needed fucking salt. By the way, I was feeling it and needed to take it off, so I served it as is without salt. Everyone upon being served said it needed salt and proceeded to salt their own dishes. My boyfriend stood by his decision and doubled down on his argument that he can't remove salt, but he can add it, and that he preferred how it tasted as is. I was fuming because he has done this in the past and says I occasionally overseason oversalt food. However, it does not happen regularly enough to be an issue. Occasionally accidental. I do 90 of it cooking at home, and he loves my food. We argued about it, and he stood his ground that he prefers his food less salty, and that if I salted it, that he would have been SOL and not been able to eat any of it. However, the amount of salt it required was not enough to be overly salted, and that I know for a fact the amount of salt I would have used, he would have happily eaten it. I told him his behavior felt controlling, and he hit me with I could have grabbed more salt myself. And again, this dish, if I stepped away, would have burned quickly. Hated for being angry and calling my boyfriend controlling for not just getting me the salt when I asked for it initially. Hated for calling her a rat. This is really bizarre. The title is how she put it. Me 25, I've been my girlfriend 20, about to go out. She wore a red polka dot dress and a matching headband with a little bow on it. She asked me how do I look. I replied, really cute, like Minnie Mouse. I meant that in a very light-hearted way because, you know, Minnie Mouse is cute and the outfit really resembled what she was. She looked me dead in the eyes and asked, did you just call me a rat? I was baffled. At first and I thought she was skinny. I said no, just pointed out that you look like Minnie Mouse. You know the Disney character? She said, so I look like a Betty. I still thought that she was skinny. I said, actually, Minnie is a mouse. They're a different species. She lost it. She started yelling at me, calling me names, saying that if anyone was a rat, it was me, saying that I belonged to the zoo, not her. I was standing there with my car keys in the hand and not realizing the thing. Eventually, she grabbed her purse and left. It happened in her go. I called her a few times. She doesn't answer. She probably blocked me. I don't know what happened. She doesn't have any long-standing grudges against Disney. She doesn't seem to hate rats as a species, and Minnie Mouse isn't even a rat. I know it sounds like a fake story. I swear it's not. I'm genuinely baffled, and I'm now wondering if I messed up. Hated for expecting my stay-at-home wife to do the majority of the chores. My wife, 26, F, and I, 28, have been married for less than a year. I have a full-time job. She is a stay-at-home wife. We have no kids. It's just the two of us. To clarify what I do around the house, I usually pick up after myself. I go and buy all the groceries, up with the clothes for washing and dry them up. I sometimes wash utensils at night 2 times a week. This doesn't include the plates, utensils I eat with. I always wash them myself. I take the trash out. As for my wife, she does the rest. She usually gets up at 8:30 or 9,000 in the morning. I have to wake her up always. I have my office at 10,000 and I am never on time when I have to go to the office. I go to the office 3 times a day. When I'm WFH, she usually takes a nap for 2-3 hours in the noon. Today was Saturday and I wanted to play my favorite game that got an expansion. I took the trash out in the morning and had breakfast she made and started playing. After breakfast, she went a bit. She called me twice, literally from the bedroom, without getting up and asking me to peel onions and buy some groceries. I did those and continued playing. I woke her up when it was time to make lunch, and she made lunch and asked if I wanted a juice. And I said sure, but no sugar, and she was murmuring about how she has to do everything and why not each bit with sugar as she has to make it separately for her. I said if it is hard, then make it for yourself. Don't eat, and if I want, I will make it myself later. She then went all grumpy and started saying I am treating her like a mate. I want to know if I'm the asshole you hated for faking my giving birth. I'll keep this as short as possible. At 25, if I'm pregnant with the baby due in a couple of days, my husband, 25, promised that he would be the one to drive me to the hospital, that he will be glued to the phone until birth. He works only 10 minutes from our home. His boss agreed to let him go when the birth happens. The problem is my mother-in-law. My husband are having unhealthy. I am a strong one. She is overly involved in our relationship, which has caused many issues in the past. She requires his attention every day. She has suggested moving in with us ever since I became pregnant, and she also has emergencies whenever we have anniversaries of my birthday, etc. As the date is approaching, I became increasingly worried that his mother will have an emergency during birth. I will have trouble getting to the hospital or will be forced to be alone during. I've voiced my concerns, of course, fights between me and them. I even suggested asking my BSF to drive me, keep me company, as I'm scared of giving birth, but it was shot down with that. Can't you trust your husband? So I'm not proud of it, but I faked giving birth yesterday. I called my hubby at work and told him it started. He said he will be right there. After half an hour, I called him to ask where he was. He didn't answer. After almost an hour, he called me to say he is at the hospital with his mom, because guess what, she is having a medical emergency. Apparently he called her to tell her that giving birth she got a heart attack from excitement. He said he will have to miss my birth. Actually asked me to call my friend to drive me, stay with me. I was very angry, heartbroken, so I told him I wasn't actually giving birth, that it was a test that showed me how he would actually behave. He asked what he said he would do with that. It proved he would always care for his mother more than for his own wife who was carrying his child. He was very angry, even blamed me for his mother's heart attack in that moment. His mom, of course, didn't have a heart attack, but a false alarm. I felt very justified, but now that we talked, I feel guilty. He said he feels manipulated, gaslighted, that just because his mother lied about the emergency doesn't mean I should lie to him. He said that marriage is built on trust, so I have to trust him instead of lying to him to prove a point. He even said that he didn't choose his mother over me, but chose a bigger emergency that I could handle getting to the hospital, but his mother needed him more, that a heart attack is more serious. I pointed out she lied, but he said he couldn't know that I was just as bad for lying. I feel like I'm going crazy, and it just because I don't want to be dishonest, and I did what I did because I'm terrified to give birth alone. My friend would have to ask for a day off in advance, so she'd have to know that she is needed before I actually get contractions. My mom died in childbirth, and I don't want to be alone during the scariest moment of my life. Even if I'm dead, I think this gave me the push I needed to get my ducks in a row. My friend already asked for a couple days off to be there when I need it. I'm just so scared. For inviting my son's girlfriend to our family vacation and giving them their own room. Disclaimer, he's technically my stepson, only qualifying because the ages look a bit funny. So my 35F son 18 recently started dating his childhood best friend Beatrice 18F. These kids have been friends since pre-K and have the most wholesome relationship with each other. He's had a crush on her for years and was too much of a chicken to ask her out until recently. We go on a yearly summer vacation and Beatrice usually does come with us. She's usually to have and our other kids love her too. This year my in-laws are coming too. They're usually great people, but they are pretty strict with my son. This is because my husband was a wild child and ended up having my son at 21. They're pushing their preconceptions on my son, who couldn't be further from a wild child. My husband used to sneak out for parties. My son has a handmade model of the solar system in his bedroom. They couldn't be more different if they tried. We were sorting out our hotel bookings and I mentioned that we were giving my son and Beatrice their own bedroom at the hotel. Mama said we shouldn't because they weren't married and they're teens, and I said that didn't matter because they're both responsible kids and the alternative is sticking them with the kids, which will make them miserable. Your parents have said it's okay for them to share a room too. Mama said she couldn't allow this to happen, then we got into an argument. She's now decided not to come on holiday with us. I've gathered some opinions on them. How my parents think that I shouldn't let them have the same room because they're teens. My brother thinks that they and my husband's brother's no big deal. Noel is demanding that they have separate rooms, otherwise they won't be coming. I don't want the kids to miss out. The grandparents being there, but I think that it usually kills. For laughing at my brother's GF when he rejected her proposal. Throw away because I don't use Reddit, but my friend told me to post here. I 28 Vicky have two brothers, Akito 30 and Akio 28. I recently got married to my boyfriend of 4 years. So a long story short, my twin brother Akio has been dating this girl Emily for about 2 years. She's honestly unbearable. She always has to be the center of attention, and it gets so annoying at times. My older brother is married to this wonderful girl named Zafira. She is sweet and kind and also doesn't hesitate to put Emily in her place. She was even my maid of honor while being 6 months pregnant, is so honestly a godsend. Our whole family loves her. The problem was during my wedding reception, Emily decided to propose to my brother and he said no. Zafira laughed because Emily usually tries to turn the attention on her during functions. She tried tried to do this at Sapphira's baby shower, but Sapphira told her to sit down and shut up safely. After my brother said no, Sapphira laughed and said, "That's what you get," and I started laughing as well. Emily broke down in tears and stormed off. My brother has been on my case, and he tried to do the same to Sapphira, but our older brother shut that down. He said I embarrassed her, and I didn't have to laugh along with Sapphira. I don't feel bad. I mean, if she really did want to propose, she could have done it some other time, but my brother is making me feel guilty. And before laughing at my cousin after she had an absolute meltdown after her boss saw her buying toilet paper at Costco. First post ever on this sub, so using the throwaway. Yesterday I tagged along with my cousin on her trip to Costco. She has always been very high-strung, but for the most part we were having a nice time as we were in the checkout line of her closet. Man in his 50s or 60s and said hello. My cousin introduced him as the man who owns the company she works for. I sort of stood by as they had normal small talk, and he even complimented her on helping out with a huge sale even though she's not in sales, and he said that they were still working out what the bonus was going to be, but it was going to be more than they initially thought. I mean, all in all, it seemed like a great interaction to have with a boss when you see them out in public. Shortly after he left, she started almost hypervising. Oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. I had no idea what she was talking about, and then she started saying, "We have to leave, we have to get out of here." That was horrible. I said I had $300 worth of groceries and I can't come to Costco. I can't leave. She actually walked away and sat down in the food court, and I was still so lost. But her leaving caused an even bigger scene because I had to go find her because they needed to scan her membership card. She was in absolute hysterics at this point, and even asked if she was okay and if they could get her some water. We paid and walked out, and she appeared to be so physically weak. I told her to lay down in the back seat and I would lug everything and drive. As I was driving, I finally asked her what was going on, and she screamed at me, "My boss just saw me buying toilet paper." Do you know how humiliating that is? I actually thought I misheard her, so I said, "Wait, this whole thing is over toilet paper?" She screamed, "Yes, I'm probably gonna get fired." I asked her if she seriously thought she was going to get fired for buying toilet paper. She said yes, that she can't let anyone at work know her private life. I told her, and he even noticed, and I also doubt he thinks about her bathroom habits, but he also probably assumes she shits and pisses like everyone else. Then she screamed back, "Your job is so easy, you couldn't possibly understand how much pressure I'm under for a climb, but elusive." At this point I lost it and started laughing harder than I knew was possible. Not only was it ridiculous, but I felt like she was attacking me, and instead of going back and forth, I felt finding the humor was the way to go. She said, "You're actually laughing at me. You're such an asshole. I do you a huge favor and you're laughing at me." She got to my house and dropped me off and sped off with my groceries. I called my aunt to make sure they got at least put in fridge, but my aunt said my cousin overacted, but I'll probably need to apologize to be able to get my stuff in. And before leaving my disabled friend behind as she was late, I 25 and my friend 22 had made plans to go see a concert. I had managed to get some good tickets for a great price. For context, we're both neurodiverse. I do get stressed about lateness or changes to plans, admittedly. I had also paid for the concert tickets and travel tickets. The agreement was she'd cover food and drinks. I was consistently late to the things this has led to conflict before. I purposely told her I'd booked an earlier train than the one I'd booked. We were working dual budget, so paid for non-changeable tickets using the rail card that gives people a discount if they're traveling together. I told her the earlier train as I couldn't afford any extra expenses. I was late, missed the earlier time. I confessed I told her the wrong time as I know what she's like and told her the actual time. She laughed and and said she was on her way. It was 5 minutes to the departure time. I sent her a screenshot of the tickets and platform numbers so she could get through the barriers, but said I was going to get on the train instead of waiting at the entrance for her. He told me to wait and that she'd be there. The train left without her and with me on board. Her rang me and asked where I was, and I told her I was on the train, but if she spoke to the ticket desk, they could help her book a later train if she still wanted to come. She started shouting at me, saying I was horrible for leaving her behind and that I knew she couldn't afford another ticket. She blamed the AITA for being late, which I said was an excuse as I had ADHD too and managed to make it. In the past, I've shared tips with her what I do to be on time for things. I told her I was happy to meet her at the venue if she could get here. Her response was that she was going home and didn't want to go anymore. I rang another friend Zed who lives near the venue and said I had a spare ticket. They went with me. We had a great time, but I was angry at the other friend. Fast forward 2 days, she's still kicking off at me over messages saying I'm a horrible person for giving her ticket to someone else and going without her as we made plans to go together. I've tried to acknowledge your feelings of missing out, but ultimately said I cannot live my life just because she's late. I've also pointed out she hadn't paid for anything, so it's not like she lost money. This and I could have waited and got a later train so we could use my rail coin discount and then both be able to go as she could have afforded it if she had the discount. I couldn't afford any more expenses for the trip. Zed paid for food in exchange for the ticket. A couple of mutual friends are saying I'm in the wrong and should have waited and hung out with her instead of going as I made plans to spend the day with Ing and not with the thing. I'm confused now since other friends are saying I'm wrong. So to break the talk, I'm asking ready to update. I've since spoken properly with the mutual friends. They've apologized and said they didn't have the full story. I genuinely have accepted their apologies and there's no hard feelings between us. I muted A's messages. Something tells me she's found this post as she was blowing up my inbox. Edit for context, I referred to her as disabled, and the heading is she said that I quote, you left someone with nobody behind and didn't help it. For mixing food and offending partner's family. I, 23, Chinese Australian, have been dating Andrew, 26, of our fiancé for 4 years and regularly stay at his place. And he lives at home with his parents and older sister Haley. Not too long ago, Haley suggested that since I stay over, I should start paying them for groceries and bills while I'm still a student, so they aren't strict with the amount. I transfer them $50, $100 of that to cover my share. His family treats me very well and I respect them. I've been really happy in my relationship, so what happened today was quite shocking to me. Andrew's mother, Louis, 60, raised Vietnamese and cooks amazing food regularly. I love her cooking. Today she had cooked a delicious pork and taro soup, and I ate some for lunch and dinner. Andrew was going to make some instant noodles, so I asked him to make me a pack of Shin Ramen Korean spicy noodles. When it was done, I decided I wanted some of the pork in my noodle and mixed some of the soup in my bowl. Louis tastily stopped me, saying that no one should not mix the soup with my ramen. I was confused. Ingrid came over and said the pork rib soup should be eaten alone and not mixed with my spicy noodles since the flavors are different. I argued that Koreans also eat spicy rib soup, so it shouldn't be too weird. Since I've had the rib soup by itself for lunch, I wanted to try a different flavor. However, Louis insisted that the way I mixed food is wrong, and Andrew said I should just eat my spicy noodles and maybe come back for a bowl of soup later. The argument got quite heated as I didn't understand why mixing food is such a crime. This had happened a few times before. I ate different condiments or mixed stir-fry with noodles. Louis pointed out that my eating habits are strange, but she never said more than that. Then I got overwhelmed and ran to Andrew's room and started crying. Haley barged in and began yelling at me. She is normally kind to me, but she does have a bit of a temper. then why are you throwing a tantrum in someone else's house? We are feeding you food and you're so ungrateful. I was really upset because I think I did nothing wrong. So in the heat of the moment, I stood up and screamed back, I paid for the food, why should you care how I eat? I'm not forcing you to eat what I eat. If I go to a restaurant and pay for a plate of food, you think they'd kick me out for eating the food wrong? How ridiculous. In the end, I was so angry, I packed my bags and stormed out of their house after Haley got so mad. She said I'm no longer welcome at their house, and now I'm on the way home and crying, wondering what I did wrong. It really doesn't make sense. I tried to put myself in their shoes and say if Andrew wanted to eat Chinese dumplings with tomato sauce, my Chinese family and I would not care at all. We just laugh him off due to personal taste. So later, for mixing food, having different food preferences and upsetting my partner's family. Thank you for not asking my girlfriend if my ex's daughter can stay with me. A few years ago, I was with a woman a bit older than me. I was 22 at the time, and she was 34. She had a 13-year-old daughter. We used to work together, and when she got kicked out by her ex, she asked me if she and her daughter could stay with me for a while. We ended up being together for just over a year until she cheated on me, and I kicked her out. That was 3 years ago. Now we're in order, and I stayed in touch, and she messaged me sometimes to ask how I was doing at that. I've been with my current girlfriend 21 for 3 months. We don't live together, but we spend most weekends together, usually at her place. Anyways, a week ago, my ex's daughter called me and asked me if she could move in with me for a bit, as her mother had moved in with an abusive guy and she didn't feel safe staying there. She's 16 and in our country you can move out at 16 without parents' consent, so I agreed and I picked her up the next day after work. I talked to my ex and she denied that her new boyfriend was being abusive, but she told me to take her daughter as she was tired of dealing with it. I told my girlfriend afterwards about this whole situation and she got really upset with me that I didn't ask her, so I told her that we don't live together and I spend most weekends at her place anyway. We had a fight about this, and even though it's been a few days, she's still angry with me, so I hate her for not asking her beforehand. Thank for not attending my stepdaughter's high school graduation. At 52, I've been married to my wife, 41, for a little over a year now. She has 3 children. In 16, I have 2 grown sons. Long story short, I've managed to make friends with her boys, but her daughter can't stand me, no matter how much I've tried to connect with her to have a good or even cordial relationship with her. She's always rebuffed me. Finally, a few months ago, I pulled her aside and asked her why she seems to have such a problem with me. She responded, I just think you're being too old for my mom. I just don't like you. I told her that she was entitled to her opinion, but that we both love the same woman in a completely different way, of course, and that we should try to get along. She responded by making it very clear that she wanted nothing to do with me. I told her, okay, well, that's fine then. You're always welcome in this house, and I won't keep trying to be friends with you, and will leave you alone. But I can't have you keep making side remarks toward me or otherwise treating me rudely in my own house. Let's just leave each other alone as best we can, and if we have to interact and just be polite, deal. She agreed. Her high school graduation is coming up in a couple of months. My wife is planning her grad party a few weeks later in June. While she was talking to me about her plans, I told her that I wouldn't be going to the ceremony and that I would plan a golf outing for the day of the party. My wife thinks that I'm acting all one-third and childish. I get how it's coming off that way, I really do, and I honestly don't see it that way, though. I just think that I'm honoring the deal that I made with my stepdaughter, that she wouldn't want me to anyway, given the dim view she takes of me. Her graduation should be about her, I'd just be a distraction. hated for not inviting the neighbors to our daughter's B-Day party and then awkwardly kicking them out. Yesterday was my daughter's 8th birthday and we did a princess theme party. The only people invited were family friends. My relationship with my neighbors is we wave if we see them, otherwise we don't talk to each other or anything really. During my daughter's birthday party held at our AITA city fence, I started to bring out the cupcakes for the kids. When handing them out, I noticed that 2 kids were definitely not invited because they weren't my niece's nephews or of a family friend. I then realized they were my neighbor's kids. I was handing out cupcakes to ask why they were here and the kids just shrugged and said my mommy said I could go. I told them it was appropriate to just come here. My husband escorted them back to their parents' house. All the neighbors' houses are decently spaced, so it's not necessarily dangerous, but we felt better if someone worked with the kids later. I think after we did the whole cake thing, our neighbors approached again. This time it was both parents and the kids. I asked what they were doing and they looked confused, saying they were joining the party. I was a little agitated now and sternly said they were not invited, that this was a birthday party for my daughter and family friends were invited. It was awkward as they left and the kids kept whining as they did. Next day today I got a handwritten letter in my mailbox about how I treated the neighbors rudely and it's expected to share community events was way too rude harsh. Hated for not letting my sister know the name chosen for my baby. I'm 38, pregnant with my first and probably only child. My sister, 36, was also pregnant, but this is her 3rd child. This baby comes several years after her last child, who was 8 years old. I struggled with fertility problems for many years. I could not get pregnant despite trying from the age of 24. We underwent numerous tests, but no clear reason for this was ever found. We tried taking breaks between trying. We tried fertility medications in recent years. And finally last year we went through IVF, which was successful for us. You might wonder what this has to do with the name of my baby. Well, let me explain. My husband and I had a boy and a girl name chosen from pretty much the time we started trying for a baby. These were names we promised to use whenever we had a baby, and we had planned to have at least 2 children. Those names stayed the names throughout everything, but when my sister was pregnant with her first child, she and her husband struggled to agree on a name. She mentioned mine and my husband's chosen names once during my pregnancy and said how lucky we were to have agreed. Then when her daughter was born, she decided to choose the girl name my husband and I had chosen, and she confessed that is how the name was decided on. She said her husband liked her chosen name and she didn't think it was bad, so she decided it would be better for them to use it so their baby could have a name. She told me not to look upset because admittedly I got emotional when she said this, and told me at least the name would be used. Then when her son was born, she used the name we had chosen for the same reason they couldn't agree on another name. This did strain our relationship and I was and still am hurt that she was so dismissive of my feelings and so blunt about what they did. She replied pretty strongly that she expected I would never have children to use the name for. Then a couple of years after her son was born, she made the comment that we agreed so easily we could find another name if it worked, implying that we should not use the names anymore. We ended up mixing our boy choice and our girl choice for this baby. Both had unisex name in them, and we decided since we loved all 4 names, mixing them up is a huge change. My sister won't like this, but honestly we don't see each other much anymore. She only reached out more now because we're both pregnant at the same time, and she has asked repeatedly about the name we have chosen. I haven't refused to tell her, but my 2 brothers know. They thought I should have used the original name as intended and give our sister the middle finger, but they also understand why we chose to mix them. She sent me a very pissy text a few nights ago saying I'm being so vague and these babies should grow up close together and we should be working on our relationship, and instead I am excluding her and making a point of saying I don't want her to know anything. Hating for not letting my wife hijack a free vacation. One of my 39M hobbies is entering raffles to have won tickets to concerts, sporting events, and some household item cards, but never a grand prize like a car vacation. Until last month when I won a free trip for people to Florida for 5 nights. Obviously, I was super excited and told my wife 38F about it right away. After our initial excitement wore off and we started talking about details, it became apparent we had conflicting ideas about this trip. Before I could even make suggestions about what I want this trip to be, my wife brought up how excited her 11-year-old daughter would be and how we could go to Disney SeaWorld, etc. She then said that we can bring her mom with to help watch her daughter so that we could have some time for ourselves. She was so excited about it and was getting wrapped up in planning things without even hearing what I wanted. I told her that all of that sounds like fun, but I was thinking that we could invite another couple and have it be an adult-only trip instead of bringing my stepdaughter and Amel with. She did not like my idea one bit and told me that she wouldn't feel right taking a free trip like that and leaving her daughter behind. She also said that her mommy's never been to Florida and this would be a perfect opportunity for her to go there. We argued back and forth a little bit before deciding to take a break and come back to it before telling anyone about it. Well, that lasted about 24 hours before my wife slept to her daughter that I had wanted her. So of course stepdaughter immediately got excited about it and started looking into all the things she wants to do. I asked my wife why she told her daughter and she said it was an accident. We just come on. It started a fight between us and emotions got a little high. I told her she was wrong to bring her daughter into this after we agreed to wait and that I never agreed to take stepdaughter or Amel at this trip. I told her that I was the one who won the trip and she was acting like this was something specifically for her. She told me I was being selfish and that we should include those closest to us in something like this, especially when this have never been to Florida. She said that bringing another couple and leaving her daughter home would be cruel, especially now that she's so excited about it. I told her that her daughter is only excited about it because she decided to laugh to her about it instead of waiting like we had agreed. I told her if she wants to bring her daughter and Amel, then she can also pick someone else to go with because I would rather stay home by myself than go on a vacation that where I don't get to be involved in any decisions. I said that if she wants to go that route, she certainly can. I'm not paying for any of it. We have separate finances. Now she thinks I'm being a jerk and should be happy about having a free family trip. Hating for not wanting to sleep over my friend's dorm after she coerced me to spend the night in jail. I am 21, I have a friend I've known for about 4 years, just 22. Recently she just got out of a year-long abusive relationship and hasn't been taking it the best. Last Friday after we took her dog for a walk and got something to eat for dinner, she asked me to stay the night at her apartment to keep her safe and secure. Since she was feeling upset, I could tell she was having a hard time with the breakup and it wouldn't be the first time I stayed over to comfort her, so I was okay with it. Usually she talks or moves a bit in her sleep when she has nightmares, but last weekend she had a full-on night terror. She sat straight up and started full-on screaming, "He's going to hurt me," over and over again. I tried to calm her down, but roommate heard her screaming and called the police. When they got there, she still wasn't coherent at all she could say was, "He's going to hurt me, stay away," or something to that extent. I didn't even have a chance to explain what was happening. They detained me and had me spend the night in jail. It wasn't until the after when they released me. I had a talk with her after she said she was having flashbacks to what her and her ex would get into fights and couldn't help it after repeatedly apologizing. Fast forward to yesterday, I haven't really talked to her much this week at all. She asked me if I'd like to go to the bar with her this weekend with a couple of her girlfriends and spend the night again. I told her I wasn't comfortable at all after last weekend, then asked if one of them could spend the night with her, especially if there's alcohol involved too. She said I was the only person she trusted and was comfortable enough to sleep in the same bed with for security. I told her again that I wasn't comfortable with the idea. She hasn't texted me since. I've tried my best to be there to help, even getting her into therapy for other reasons, but I'm not okay with putting my safety at risk. Before putting a tree net to stop any roots from going onto my neighbor's yard. It advised to listen to. We started the net when we had a medical will come up and needed to work on paying it off. I'm being advised to edit this. The box of fruit was for fruit that was prepped in some way, and what I was asked about, my wife was asked for the fruit as a whole. It was when he came to me that he asked about the fruits that were prepared. I thought it was implied because of the topic differences between me and my wife. I'm playing next to the part I'm talking on. I'm sorry for not making that clear. I inherited a house from my dad from his passing a few years ago. His house came with the guava tree on the yard. The tree has been there for a good portion of my teen years and is special to me. Me and my wife were one day thinking of ways for extra income and realized we could literally sell off the fruit. Got the permit and started to prepare guava in different ways. For reference, I sell the fruit whole slice and put into cups, canning it. We realized that while the branches weren't exactly hanging over our neighbor's lawn, sometimes guava would have to fall over or butt against the fence at the right angle and end up over there. So me and my wife purchased a tree fruit net for the side of the tree that was closer to the neighbor's yard. Since then, I don't think any fruit fell to the yard, which is good. What led me here today is that last week while my wife was on the lawn, the neighbors approached her and asked what happened to the fruits. My wife explained that we keep the fruits and that so that we can have more. Apparently the kid ran off and came back with their dad, who asked my wife the same thing. She explained again, and from what she said, the father looked like he took it personally. Asked if we thought he was stealing, and my wife explained no, we didn't think that, we just want to maximize the fruit that falls from our tree since we do use it for some profit. Today the same neighbor knocked on the door and I answered. He asked if we could talk about the fruit tree situation. He said that he thinks it's selfish how my father would freely let the fruits fall wherever, but now that I'm here hoarding the fruit, I explained that the tree is my property, so whatever comes from the tree is also my property. I said he could buy water off us if he wanted, but he looked more upset that I would even recommend that. I'm glad this kid liked the fruit, but now that I'm making money off this, I can't just let that happen freely. He called me selfish again and that I could at least spare a few. I said again he could buy some off me if he wanted. And I'm offered a box for $5 now every time we see him around. He doesn't smile at us, which I guess is expected, but now they let the dog poop on our lawn and keeps telling his kid loudly that the neighbors killed the fruit fairy. Some of the neighbors are still cool with us, but it's like we made an enemy from him, and I'm feeling slightly guilty for the kid. For refusing to house my brother, which is preventing my parents from retiring. My brother, 38, is a little prince. I'm 42, Mexican American, and my parents definitely babied him and expected me to work hard. I suppose it isn't bad in hindsight as I'm down in rent and making 6 years with overtime, but growing up I was pretty resentful of it. My brother has the PhD, which caused him to barely finish high school, so further education is not an option, and he hates sitting at a desk. He does take Ritalin for it, but says still hard to focus. He has gotten a few jobs in the past and got fired after missing work with no notice. My dad is 66 and works roofing, but is now physically unable to keep working. My parents have a paid-off house and some savings and want to go back to Mexico to retire. My mom is 62, also has shoulder issues and so have been waiting planning for retirement for a while. My brother, though, is still living with him, and obviously with no job, he can't move out. They want to sell the house, and him being there means he can't. I've told them to just kick him out, let him figure it out, but they refuse to. They have asked me multiple times to let my brother live with me, which I'm totally against. They own our home, but there is only a room per child, and my husband doesn't even have space for an office. But my parents suggested we move the children together, teenage girl and teenage boy, so my brother can move in. I think that's so selfish for them to want my children to have to share a room because my brother is irresponsible. But my brother was also spoiled and this has never had to be responsible, so I'm worried he will become homeless or addicted to drugs if my parents throw him out. So later for still not letting him stay in my house. For refusing to share my inheritance with my father's new children. My father is an only child. My grandmother and grandfather were kind of disappointed with how he chose to live his life after high school. He wasted a bunch of his time and their money was doing courses of study he didn't have any real interest in. They made sure he graduated debt-free and then left him to his own devices. When he married my mom to help him pay for the wedding and gave them the down payment for their home. My mom and dad then spent the next 20 years growing up. When I was born, I was pretty much given to my grandparents to raise. My maternal grandparents helped as much as they could, but they are back in Argentina. So I was basically raised as my dad's little brother, not as his kid. My grandparents came to my parent-teacher meetings. They attended my sporting events. They were my parents. My biological mother passed away when I was 12. I found out weeks later, since my dad didn't bother telling anyone. When I was 25, my grandparents got taken within 2 months of each other. My grandfather went last, and in his will he left my dad $50. He left the SPCA $50,000. I got the rest. They had already paid for my education. I thanked them and was planning on paying them back once my career got going. Now I have a huge old house and a rather nice nesting. I'm 35 and my fiancé and I are about to start our family. My dad calls me out of the blue and says he has remarried news to me and that his wife is expecting. I congratulate him, not knowing what else to do. He said that obviously my grandparents would want their grandchildren to share equally in their estate. He said I need to talk to the lawyers and see about setting up a trust fund for this new kid and any future kids. I said that I was not splitting my inheritance and that it was his job as a parent to provide for his children. He tried saying that his parents hadn't provided for him. I asked him about his debt from 7 years of university. I asked about the money for his wedding. I asked about his mortgage. I asked him if he could please provide me with information about how much he paid towards my education, how much he helped me when I bought my first home, what he gave me towards my wedding. For the record, he got us a sweet stand mixer. He said that he didn't have the kind of money his parents had. I asked him how much he earned at his job. He said that he worked to live, not live to work. That was something he'd always said to my grandfather. It really hit home with me. He has spent his entire life on easy mode. I told him that if he is a competent father and his new kids finish high school, I will help them get an education. He said he needs money now. I asked why my unborn half sibling needed money. It turns out my dad hasn't been paying his taxes, and I offered to buy his house and rent it back to him. He said I was being an asshole like his dad and trying to control him with money. My wife is with me, but she thinks I was harsh and that his kid deserves a leg up. For refusing to take my daughter's service dog back home. I have a 12-year-old daughter, let's call her Reese, was the service dog for her diabetes. The dog is by her side about 22 days. Recently, we were going to visit some new relatives, so I double-checked with the house to make sure that nobody had allergies, and she said it was fine. So we show up to this family function, and one of the cousins, let's call her Maze, immediately concerned and says we can't can't bring the dog in because her 4-year-old is deathly afraid of dogs. I explained the situation and that the dog wouldn't go near her child, and then May still insisted that her daughter wouldn't be comfortable and asked me if I could put the dog away or take it back home. I didn't budge, so she ended up sitting as far away from the dog as she could possibly get it, telling her upset daughter I won't let the dog hurt you, which made Reese feel like she was causing trouble and stressed the kid out. Lake Saul says that I could have prevented the drama by just taking the dog home for its rest time and hunted Reese myself, and for refusing to take my daughter's service dog home. AITA for rejecting my referral offer to work me down here and insisting my sister will be doing it. This is a dispute my fiance 26 and I 25 of having with his parents. A few months ago his dad offered to work me down, even though he and my fiance's mom knew I had already asked my sister to do it. At first I thought it was sweet because they explained as my sister could be my bridesmaid or matron of honor, but I explained my sister wanted to and I wanted her to as well, but they have not let it go. Now they're offended that I refused. The outer context on why my sister she raised via our siblings. She was the oldest and was parentified when she was way too young. She was our savior. She was our everything. I love her more than I can express. She gave up a childhood and her young adult life for us, and she did an awesome job for a kid, but it was really unfair. It changed our relationship forever. We will never have a typical sibling relationship, and I respect her the way I would respect my parents if they were good parents and people. My sister never should have been put in the position she was. She never deserved to have her childhood taken away or most of her 20s. It wasn't right, but it was our reality. The two of us are especially close, and I have always tried to honor her for everything while also having a more mutual give and take relationship as adults. But moments like this for us are when she deserves to shine and have a spotlight on her for doing what she did for us. Nobody in my life deserves this honor more, and it wouldn't be anywhere near as meaningful with anyone else. She gets an extra special role in weighing, and some details are being figured out still, but this is something that we're doing. She might only be 10 years older than me, but she has been the best parent and sister and friend anyone can ask for. My fiance understands this perfectly and has been on my side. He has spoken to his parents to get them to stop, but they have made it clear they feel I'm rejecting Raphael and saying he's not good enough. They feel like I should be looking to them more as parental figures because I don't have the additional ones myself. I don't, but I have my sister and she's the person responsible for who I am today. I know they take issue with a woman so close in age to me doing what is typically the role of a parent. I know it's kind to offer to do it, so I've asked her because this has created so much drama later for rejecting a firm offer. Hate him for saying no to my stepbrother coming to my birthday party. My parents are divorced and I 15 am a stepbrother 13 and then 2 stepsisters 10 after 9. Last year I chose to stay mostly with my dad and I see my mom every other weekend. He has the every other week schedule we had before. I prefer living with my dad. My relationship with mom isn't close and I don't like her husband or his son, so it was a no-brainer to let me with more once I was old enough to decide. My mom blames my dad. She blames him for everything wrong in our relationship and the relationship with her husband and stepson. Her blaming my dad for everything is kind of why our relationship ended up this way. When I was young and they were still minor and she chose to stay away from school plays and stuff, and that was taking time off work to be there because she didn't want to be there with him because their marriage sucked. And when I asked her to come, she told me it was a choice between her and my dad. My parents fought about that too, and Dad called her childish and told her to put me first. It was easier when they divorced because they fought way less. My mom isn't that warm-minded. She's fine, but not really the kind of parent you could seek comfort from. She has a really short temper and she dated a lot after she and Dad filed for divorce. She introduced me to a bunch of random guys and tried to make me like them more than my dad. When she got married to her husband, she made a big deal out of me needing to spend time with his kids and putting the expectation on me to give her time with her husband. Then her stepson wanted to come with me to my dad's, and he was really trying to be my brother and would get really annoyed. Then Mom would annoy me because she said I should include him more. Her husband would get mad at me and say I should stay with him since his son wanted a brother. And he told me his son could come with me to Dad some weekends if I insisted on seeing my dad. It was extra shitty when Dad would take me on vacations and my stepbrother would beg to go with us and I would say no. My mom would tell me to ask my dad and I'd say no. She'd tell me I was a brother whether I wanted to be or not, and I would include my sibling who wanted to go. I told her to pay for a vacation for us all, but I wasn't letting her stepson intrude when I was with my dad. My birthdays were always a shit show too because I got to. And Dad always did something fun with me and my friends. This year is no exception and he's taking us someplace really awesome. But it's a place my stepbrother has wanted to go to for years or something, and when my dad gave my mom a heads up about it, he has to when he takes me out of state just like she has to do the same. She told her stepson that he wants to come. I don't want him there. Mom told me not to be a dick and that they can't afford to take the family there. I told her it wasn't my problem. Her stepson tracked me down at school and begged me. I told him my mom and her husband told me I was being such a shit to him, so I did. AITA for staying at a hotel whenever my parents come to visit since they won't. I love my parents completely. I can handle them in small doses. They insist on staying with me and my family when they visit, which means kicking one of the kids out of their room so my parents get a bit. I have told them that I will pay for a hotel so that we can all be comfortable. They say it is too much trouble. Then they take over my house and start criticizing everything. It just grates on my nerves. My dad also stakes out the TV in the family room and leaves it on Fox News all day. They were here for a week over Easter. I booked a hotel for myself and my family and I left them the house. They got upset since they had traveled all that way to spend time with us. But here's the thing. My kids got off the time because they didn't have to try and eat the massive breakfast my mom insists they have every day. There were no fights over the TV. We had dinner together every night, but the kids got to sleep at their regular time since my parents couldn't keep them. We spent Easter weekend completely with my folk. We made food together. We took everyone to the new Ghostbusters movie. Then we went to the hotel and slept in comfort. My mom says she was disappointed that I would do this. I reminded her that I had literally seen her cry when my grandmother and mom would stress her out during visits. I asked her why she stopped inviting her parents to visit and why we always stayed at hotels when we visited my grandparents. She said it was completely different since her parents did was criticize her. She did things. I asked her for a list of all the things she said about my house and family that were not critical. The list consisted of greetings and congratulations to my son over graduating from grade 6 this year. She had the grace to look embarrassed, but she still said that we should stay home when they visit. I agreed that we would spend the night until her or my dad said something insulting. Long story short, we spent that night at a hotel as well. Now she is saying that I'm pintrolling for not accepting them for who they are. I almost got hemochromatosis from that statement. Thank you for telling everyone in the home that I will plate food from now on and clear labeling for leftovers. I have 3 people in the home right now. My daughter that is going to college and my son and his wife that are staying to save money. The issue is with my son and his wife. They need so much of it, and frankly it is a concerning amount. What I usually do before they moved in was make a meal that everyone eats and then pack up leftovers in the fridge. The food is gone by the time I even try to get tickets. Sometimes I make dinner and my daughter at home and it's all gone. I make big meals that can easily feed for 6 people with leftovers sometimes. For example, I made a pound of spaghetti with meat sauce. I didn't even get any, I didn't grab it, and was going to eat after I finished some chores. My daughter wasn't home, and those two ate a whole pound of spaghetti. I added to a layer cake, almost always there. And when I worked, the cake was almost gone when I got home. That was less than 8 hours. My daughter is very frustrated since there is never any cooked food in the home. I have made double batches and that gives leftovers, but they don't last. The next day, the leftovers are gone. It is starting my wallet and I'm over it. I don't want to charge for groceries since it won't solve the issue with leftovers, or if they eat everything before anyone has the chance to eat some. So they sit everyone down and told them I will be plating everyone's food. That leftovers will be split evenly and labeled clearly. If anyone is still hungry, then they can buy more food to eat. I implemented it today, my daughter, and I love it since we're good at it. Have leftovers, they ate it and are still hungry. This is hard in it. They are human and they think I'm a huge shit. And for telling my brother it's his fault that his kids don't have a grandparent in their lives and he can't blame mom for this. It's a bit complicated. I will make this as clear as possible. My brother married a crazy-ass woman. He had 2 kids with her before she left. She is a deadbeat. When they were married, my brother didn't stand up to her at all, even if he thought she was being crazy. She hated our mother and everything she did was an issue. She would make him upset when they were having trouble with money and would get pissed at her for doing it wrong. This resulted in a decline in her mental health. Our mom refused to babysit after a while, and that caused a huge argument. As she babysits or she doesn't get to see her grandkids, she chose a lot of other family took steps back away from her. My mom was hurt greatly at this. Basically doesn't want to see any of them. I stayed in touch out of concern, but his wife made many rumors about me, and any time it was time to remorse their marriage fell apart and divorced. She just left after that. Anyway, she still comes to family functions and people are warming back up. Our mom has made it clear that she doesn't want to play grandma with his kids. I can't even blame her since she got so bad that she had panic attacks dealing with it. She was complaining about how the kids don't have many grandparents and that mommy's a dick. I snapped when he said that and told him that it is his fault. He never once told up for mom and made it miserable for her. He pulled the kids away, and you can't blame mom. He called me a dick and we are talking. Thank for telling my cousin why I don't let my mom dog sit for me anymore. I 28 have a 4-month-old German Shepherd puppy. When texted our family dog was of the same breed, and we raised him from when he was 2 months old. Unfortunately, he passed 2 years ago. Last month, I had to go to work in person out of the blue. I got very little notice, so I called up my mom and asked her if she could take care of the puppy for me. She agreed and came over. I told her he was unvaccinated and to be careful. I went to work. I messaged her every now and then to ask how they were doing, and she responded with a thumbs up emoji every time. I came back to an empty house and panicked at thinking something had happened to both of them, or there was an emergency and they had to go to the vet. I called her and she didn't pick up. Her phone was switched off. I went over to my neighbors and asked them if they knew anything, and they said they had seen my mom taking the puppy out on a leash. I started walking to the nearby puppy park, and what do you know? My mom's there with the puppy and like 2 other dogs. I went over and asked her why she didn't pick up, and she laughed and said her phone was dead. Of course, she was too busy with the puppy to charge it. When we got home, I asked her why she took him outside, and then I told her not to. She said I never explicitly told her not to take him outside and tried it around with me. this is how you repay a favor, and said the puppy looked and seemed being all cooped up in the house. I have a substantial backyard. I left it at that, and the next day took puppy to the vet. All was clear at the time, but 4 days later, the puppy started showing symptoms, and turns out he caught parvo. The poor thing went through a lot, but he's been alright for a week now. A couple days ago, I left him with his sitter to attend the fam's Easter celebration, and to note at this point I hadn't communicated with my mom since the day my cousin asked me how the puppy was doing, and I told her the whole thing word got around, and now people are condemning my mom for her actions, and honestly I couldn't care less. Mom called me today and demanded I make things clear with other people, and that it wasn't her fault my puppy fell sick and could have died. I asked for an apology, of course, even if she didn't mean for it to happen. The puppy did so. She declined and locked her in. I did a lot of confusion about the timeline. I got my puppy at 10 weeks old. He was unvaccinated. I took him to the vet, and at 12 weeks when my mom came to docs and he was due for his second round. He's currently 4 months old and vaccinated. 32. The reason I thought he's unvaxxed, be careful, was enough is that our family dog was not allowed in public spaces until he was 4.5 months old and fully vaccinated. Socialization was done in a safe and controlled environment. I assumed my mom would understand similar rules followed in this situation. Additionally, I had 10 minutes between mom's arrival and my departure, so I could barely explain the pup's schedules and where everything was. Also, it is common sense. Would you take an unvaccinated baby outside? For telling my girlfriend that it's not my fault she can't get her life together. My 26-year-old girlfriend is in the middle of a second year and is still in the trying to figure out her life phase. I admit I don't really know how to treat that, since my parents has always been very strict about taking as many AP classes as we can until the age of 16, 10th grade, so that we will be able to do what we want and to go to them the summer before 11th grade with a plan that details every class we will take to get us to the degree that we want, and a general plan of what we want to do before getting the degree, while getting the degree, and after getting the degree. My girlfriend never really understood my parents doing that, since her parents never really cared as long as she's happy and surviving it. While it took me some time to understand as well, seeing as me and my sibling are all very successful, I'm thankful for that. The problems started a few days ago, 5 months into our relationship, when she officially met my family. She has seen my sister a couple of times. When she came to crash at my place because she needed quiet to study, she's in her last year of medical school, but they didn't really talk much. Both of my parents are lawyers, and our house is very fancy and always look put together and like no one lives there. Since they have meetings there sometimes next to my girlfriend's house, that always looked on me at very length, and she was rightfully a little freaked out. By the end of the night I could see that my girlfriend finally understood just how different our upbringing was. I drove her home after, and before she got out of my car, she asked me to not make her go to my parents' house anymore. I asked her why, because while I had the clue, I didn't want to make assumptions. She said that it freaks her out and wouldn't elaborate. I confused a little, and she kind of snapped that it makes me look bad and feel like she's not good enough for me. This is edited because I was copying it from somewhere else, and this paragraph was deleted. I was shocked, and I told her that just because my parents have more money than her, it doesn't matter, and that she makes enough money to live comfortably and be happy, and that's all I want from a partner. She told me that it's not just that, it's my whole family. My brother is a surgeon, my sister wants to be an anesthesiologist, and I work in the biggest bank in the country, and we all make a to making my sister case her yearly salary in a month. That's an exaggeration, and that she doesn't know if she can live feeling like that. I was mad at that point and told her that it's my fault that she decided to drop out of college and get her life together. It's not true. She has an amazing life, and I know that, but I was so mad that I didn't notice what I was saying. She didn't say anything and just walk out. I feel really bad, but also like I was justified by reaching like that. She was taking bad about the way my parents raised me, and I will always protect my parents against everything. I need to know AITA. I'm sorry about the mistakes and mess, but it's 3 in the morning for me and I barely slept in 2 days. 80 for telling my husband it's gross and embarrassing to show his butt crack in public. I 27 have been married to my husband 30 and for a year. He's a bigger guy around 6 foot and 260 months. Ever since we lived together at home, he would always dress comfortably in sweatpants or other loose clothing, which would result in some lovers crack to show their home. I didn't mind it and we laughed over it before. Recently though, he started to do the same when we are out in public, regardless of where we are. Every time he bends over into place, too much work would make anyone uncomfortable, and it's not just his sliver, it's a few inches at least. The last time we were at the grocery store and we had an incident, I got mad at him saying it's embarrassing for him to show his butt crack out in public, with him responding saying it's not a big deal and that he can't control it because of his size. I may have been a bit rude and blew up at him, but there has to be ways to keep his pants up and not show his butt. Any device or a way to get him to stop, or ways for him to keep his pants up. To old doctor, my husband can't seem to keep his pants up and it embarrasses me, and in a way that he might scare others. Any way to help him fix it? 80 for telling my mom she doesn't get to act like the victim when she named me after her late husband behind my dad's back. My mom was married to another guy before she was married to my dad. Her first husband was her childhood best friend and her first and only love until he died. They started dating as teenagers and got married in their 20s and were trying to have kids when he died. They were 28. My mom never loved anyone else again. She met and married my dad, but she never loved him. She married him because she was turned down as a single and adoptive parent, and because people in her life told her she should find a way to be happy again. I'm their only kid and she named me after her first husband. My dad didn't realize for years her husband's name was James, like his legal name. It's the one most people use for him, but my mom called him Hunter, and guess what my name is? Hunter. She told Dad she just really loved the name, and my dad liked it too, so they agreed. He only knew her first husband as James, so never made the connection. I was sad when my dad found out. He found some letters that he initially thought were meant for me, but realized they were to the first husband. They ended up arguing for like 2 weeks straight, and that's how I learned Mom's feelings toward Dad and why she married him. I would sit up and listen to them when I was meant to be sleeping because it weirded me out to learn I was named after her first husband. She always had him very present in our lives. We had loads of photos in the house of him, and she would talk about it a lot, and it was pretty clear she was still super in love with him. I only realized last year, but something she also did was switch her wedding ring from my dad out for her original wedding ring when my dad wasn't around. I remember her changing rings a lot when I was a young kid, and when they divorced, she just always wore her original wedding ring. I wanted my name changed, and my dad does too, but Mom refuses to get her consent, which we need, and the judge has insisted both parents have to consent. My relationship with Mom is not good anyway. I'm not the kid she wanted because I'm not James Hunter's kid, but she also refuses to let me go and just let me be his kid. She'll sometimes try some performative parenting, but mostly it's sort of like we're roommates when I'm at her house instead of Dad's. I have to split my time every other week. The judge refused to let me make the decision. My mom's house has photos of her and James all over the place. It's like a shrine to him to them, and 2 days ago she was crying to her for hell that we hate her and how awful my dad is to her. When the call ended, I told her she doesn't get to act like the victim when she lied to Dad about my name and named me after her husband behind Dad's back, and when she She won't let me change my name, so I'm not creeped out by the history behind my name. She called me a self-absorbed brat and told me I will never understand her grief. I told her I understood the loss was devastating for her, but she used us and never even loved us, and that was shitty. Thank you for telling my parents that being better parents to their younger children does not make up anything to me. My parents had me when they were still pretty young, but at 21, they weren't really secure and didn't have a maternal or paternal instinct back then. Because of this, my dad's parents stepped up and it would take care of me when my parents were busy with school or work or anything really. I was basically raised by my grandparents for 13 years, and when I was 13, it only stopped because my life got busier at the encouragement of my grandparents. I was in extracurriculars paid for by my grandparents and spending more time with friends and exploring the world. My grandparents taught me a lot of skills from cooking and cleaning to how to take care of myself. They did it because they were aware I might not get taken care of if something happened to them and I was left with just my parents. 3 years my parents resented me. I know one thing and my grandparents know it. They should it in small ways. Complaining when I asked for their signature or when my grandparents told them they needed to show up at parent conferences at my school. They would grumble about me being sick and ask my grandparents to deal with it. Sometimes they would take me to an amusement park and get annoyed when they couldn't go on all the rides together because that meant leaving me alone. Sometimes my grandparents had plans and couldn't let me stay with them for a night, and my parents wanted to go out. Then they had more kids who are 3 and 1 now, and they are way better parents to them. I'm not saying they're perfect because nobody is, but they are being parents to them. They deal with every tantrum without acting like they hate the baby. They play with them, read bedtime stories, sing with them if I over stays home with the sick kid because both want to be there. They know their 3-year-old's favorite foods and music. They want these kids. It only came to my attention recently because my parents suddenly decided the 3 of us needed therapy, that they felt them being parents to their younger children meant I would forgive them and it would make it up to me for not being here for me, even though they still are. They talk about me being distant and not spending time with the family and how they don't know me. I told them of course they don't because they were never around me, and when they were news I wasn't there. I told them they can't honestly expect that being parents to their other kids would make it up to me. They mentioned something about siblings and how I speak like they're not, and I said because my parents are dad's parents and not them, and the kids I live with have different parents to me and a very different life. I also reiterated that being better to them is good because no kid should go through what I did, but it doesn't make anything up to me. They told me it was spiteful to not take joy in my siblings having better, and they accused me of being stubborn and unforgiving. Thank you for telling my picky DIL that she can bring her own food to family events from now. My DIL is picky with her food. No matter what there is an issue with the food, then she will make it known. The whole time I have known her, she will make a dig about the food. It is too seasoned, under seasoned taste, hers is better, and so on. Overall, it is fiery and no conversation yet. But though her head that she is being rude, I know she is doing it on purpose. This Easter I was having work issues that resulted in me being very stressed, so I decided to just order Easter dinner. It came with a small ham, mac and cheese, and potatoes, deviled eggs, and different drinks. Super easy, just needed to warm it up. Overall, it was good. My DIL kept making commented about the food, and online I was lazy for not cooking. Her husband, my son, shut her down eventually. I thought it over and informed my son and DIL that she needs to bring her own food, that I'm done with this and she is not welcome to eat my food. Argument, and my son thinks I went for a while. My DIL thinks I'm a jerk, that I can't handle criticism. hated for telling my sister to mind her own business and that she should scare my daughter by saying she could have affairs. I 35F have a daughter, Emma 15F. I didn't know I was pregnant with her as I had always been very underweight, and due to that never had periods. I didn't gain any weight or have any symptoms, but I was about 7 months along and complained of back pain. After a doctor's visit, I realized I was pregnant and kept the baby. This I didn't know fully, and I did drink a fair amount and smoke. After realizing I was pregnant, I completely stopped and was terrified that Emma would have FAS or that I could have harmed her. My sister, over 41, has really helped me during this time, especially when Emma was younger and I needed someone to look after her while I finished college. It was Emma's dad didn't want to be involved. Emma was born healthy and has had long-term health issues otherwise, and is very smart. She is in the top set in our classes and always very happy. Last week I got a call from Emma's teacher to say she might have dyscalculia. She is struggling in math. She informed me she wanted to get Emma tested with a special needs lady in the school and needed my supervision. I said yes and didn't think much of it. I just wanted Emma to get the help she needs. I told her and she said that this could be due to my thinking when I was pregnant and that kids with FAS struggle with problem solving. But Emma has never struggled before, and that if she had FAS I would tell her, but there was no need to scare her and let her know. Emma disagrees and wants me to tell Emma, but I told her to mind her own business, and she's now saying she will tell Emma if I don't, as she's old enough to know. Hated for telling my uncle his advice is unwanted and his opinion is unwelcome, and thinking I'm alive with my dad since my mom cheated on him with my uncle. Still see my uncle every few weeks, but only because he lives with my grandparents and I don't want to go and see with them. My dad agrees with this, saying I should just be stoic to the guy when I visit. Mom's no longer in the picture, having left my uncle for someone else. Haven't seen her for months now. My dad gave me a credit card last year saying that I can use it for meals. I'm also allowed to buy one new book each week. Today I bought The Maze Runner. Then I had lunch at one of my grandparents' house. As usual, I just ignored my uncle and talked to my grandparents. My uncle usually ignores me as well, but not today. He asked me why I wasted money buying the book when I already had the movie, before saying my dad should have taught me better about money management. Then the guy also went on and said that I'm too old for the book. I said the stuff listed in the title of the post. Didn't raise my voice at him or anything, just looked him right in the eyes and said it. My grandparents told me that I didn't have to be rude to him and that he's still my elder. They said I should be polite to him for the sake of saying I should have greater self-control at my age. Hated for telling my wife she doesn't have a job, she is the hot. Okay, so some context, my wife is a housewife and is in charge of all the chores, since I usually leave around 7 in the morning and return around 7 in the afternoon as I work long hours, as that's simply the nature of having your own firm and the commutes are both ways. So recently my wife wanted to add her English degree to use and try and publish a book, which she was just doing is something to pass the time. So over the past few weeks, chores like the dishes and dusting haven't been getting done and started piling up, so I decided to talk to her about it, and she told me that I have to start doing some of the chores too, as she is working now. I told her that that's not her job and just a hobby until she starts making money, and tried to tell her that we agreed that she takes care of the house while I make the money. She got mad at me about this and claimed I was belittling her. I tried to defend myself by explaining I'm not mocking her, but that's just a matter of the fact that her writing doesn't make any money, meaning it's not a real job and just something she does for her own enjoyment for the time being. After some back and forth, she got even more mad at me and has decided to go sleep in the guest room for the time being, and is in general a bit annoyed with me, but has started to take care of the chores. So later hard-headed. For full transparency, we do have a 7-year-old daughter together, but she goes to school at around 7:35 in the morning and comes back almost 5 p.m. in the evening. After her extracurriculars, so my wife only watches her for about 2 hours without me each day, which is why I refer to her as a stay-at-home wife and not mom. For telling my wife that she needs to pay the $2,000 to fix your DIY project. I'm phoned in to proofread my wife, and I have a shared account that we put money in for a shared bill. The rest of the money will stay in our own bank account. My wife has a habit of doing DIY projects that she has no idea what she is doing. Sometimes it's small, other times it is a huge mess. I have had conversations so many times that every DIY projects we need to agree if she can do it. This is due to her getting way over her head, and then I need to fix it, or we have to pay someone sick to coming home and needing to fix this whole mess. She decided that she wanted to repaint the kitchen cabinets. Well, she didn't do a test on a small pace and started sanding. Those cabinets are not real wood, and she scratched them to hell and back edge it. The paint isn't sticking and they are awful. She ruined almost all the top kitchen cabinets. That is what I came home to. I told her she needs to replace them all, that she ordered perfectly good cabinets and I'm not paying for it. This isn't a shared expense, and we have had conversations after conversation about her DIY. Also, if she just talked to me, I would have told her those are not real wood and added a panel covering on it. It's going to cost her around $2,000 to buy new cabinets and for people to install them. This started an argument where she said new cabinets are a shared expense and I'm jerked for not helping her. I came for more opinions. For wanting to kick out my brother and his family after they've been nightmare house guests. My brother Ellis recently got a job in my city that we will earn an immediate start. He didn't have the time or money to find a place on such notice, and his partner Taylor just had a baby 7 months ago, so he didn't want to leave her alone. So he asked if they could stay at my place for a couple of months to get situated. This is a responsible guy who doesn't take advantage of people, so I felt okay saying yes. Honest Taylor, their 7-month baby and Taylor's daughter all moved in. Before they came, I made it clear that I would not tolerate them doing any sleep training or crying out stuff with the baby. If the baby cries, you need to make an immediate and reasonable effort to soothe him. The other rule was Taylor was responsible for any damage your daughter didn't. They asked you would think this would be obvious, but we've had previous incidents. The final rule was neither I nor my husband would be doing any child care. I am a son to my own daughter, as well as having a side businessman. My husband works very hard. Just because we're home does not mean we're available to provide child care. I thought it went without saying that they would be responsible for themselves in all other ways. They accepted all the conditions and moved in. It took 2 weeks to go to shit. There were times I'd have to get up night to wake Taylor and Ellis to get the baby. Taylor's daughter has also not adjusted well to the move and is constantly playing sick to avoid his school. Then, because she's not really sick, she spends the day causing havoc. Taylor has been bugging me to help her with the kids despite agreeing she wouldn't. She has also been expecting that she and her kids would be cooked and cleaned for. So it was 2 weeks until I was getting annoyed. Then a further 2 weeks on me being on the what tipped it over was earlier this week. I was picking my daughter up from school and going out, and Taylor asked me to take your daughter with me. She said she was drowning and things to do, and the baby was fussing and she needed a break. I said no. Taylor swore at me and I just left. When we got back a few hours later, the first thing I hear is the baby crying. I go into the nursery to notice Taylor. Her daughter is sitting on the couch watching TV and crying. paragraph no tell. My kitchen is invested and no tell. I frantically searched the whole house only to find Tala locked in a closet. She said she couldn't take it and needed a break. I called Ellis and told him to get his ass home. I set them down and said they had to go. I said I would ship in for a hotel. I can't do this anymore. It stinks I'm being ever going back on the deal. He and Taylor haven't held up there, and I do feel bad because I don't want to stress Ellis out with his new job, but I'm going crazy. I hate being in my own home before putting my foot down. Thank you for telling my friend the truth. My 21M friend 20M keeps complaining over and over again about the fact that no girls ever look at him and how he's never dated or been with a girl ever. Last night we were out and he started telling me about how he's a crush on my younger 19th sister and he wasn't polite about it. I think he told me about how he wants to smash and fuck my sister in the pussy, and I obviously got angry and yelled at him. I told him that the reason no girl will ever look at him is the fact he's a fat, lazy, ugly guy who never shaves or brushes teeth, and that he needs to take 5 minutes to breathe after coming up the stairs, let alone the fact he sees women as nothing except sex. Cause after that he started crying and went home with the asshole for telling him the harsh truth after what he said about my sister. Wonder if I gave my parents an ultimatum. This has been a challenging situation. To preface, I'm the only girl of my 4 siblings. At 27, I have 2 older brothers, 39, 35, and 1 younger, 26. While my older brothers are 11 and 7 years older than me, we have always had a pretty close relationship, and my younger brother and I are 18 months apart. My dad is a pastor, so we grew up in a pretty religious household, which I still value. I love my brothers and I love my parents, and however there are a ton of double standards, and I have recently been calling them out. For instance, my oldest brother and his now wife got pregnant before they were married. My parents, although shocked, were thrilled and offered anything my brother may need to help their situation. My dad officiated their wedding like nothing was wrong. My other older brother bought a house with and moved in with his then girlfriend, now wife. They needed some help with the down payment, and my parents stepped in and gave them a few $1,000s to help them, no strings attached. My younger brother is a straight-up Mrs. Willard. He has struggled in the past with drugs, self-hatred, and things that go along with it. He has been in and out of rehab therapy and has lived with almost every girlfriend he has ever had. My parents get upset but hardly bad, and I started dating the love of my life about a year ago. I was not a big dater in high school or college, so when things got serious with him, it was a huge deal. He and I have seriously talked about marriage and kids, and he is the first relationship I have actually felt comfortable in. He and I made the decision to move in with each other about 6 months ago. We told his parents, our brothers, cousins, and they were all extremely happy for us. I had been avoiding telling my parents for obvious reasons. My mom and dad knew I was moving, they just did not know where. My mom came over to help me pack the other day, and out of nowhere she said, "Honey, I need to tell you that we love your boyfriend, but I'm unhappy with your decision. It grieves me." I said I understood. I'm an adult and can make my own decisions. She said she understood that, but said she needed to voice that. She also said that I want to do the mom thing and help me decorate and see the house, but I just can't under the circumstances. I asked her if she meant she would never come to my house even if I invited her, and she just looked at me and shrugged like, that really hurt me. It almost feels like selective religiousness. I have been struggling with this for some time, even before the moving in part. I really want to sit down with my parents and ask them, is this feud worth a relationship with me and my boyfriend that they claim to love so much? Would I be an asshole if I asked them to try and compartmentalize their feelings like they did with my brothers, or I would keep mine just as Wonder if I told my BFF's mom the real reason I won't be there for her daughter's marriage proposal. Killed here at the bottom. My BFF's 28th and my 29th have been BFFers since middle school. Super close and very much present in each other's lives. She's moving from OH to CT, which will make it harder for me to see her as often because we'll be a 10-hour car ride before and there are no direct flights. Her and her BF 30 boy house in his hometown 20 minutes from his parents' house, and then they move in on April 19th. She invited me to ride up with her parents to help her move in. The BF called me a week ago to tell me he plans to propose at their front door before they enter the house for the first time as homeowners. When they open the door, their immediate families will be on the other side. I assumed he wouldn't want me there since it was just gonna be parents and siblings, but he said he'd love for me to be there and that she would want me there. She told him to make sure I knew about the proposal 6 months in advance. Of course, he just planned this a couple weeks ago. So today I reached out to her mom and coordinated the ride up there. She was happy he'd invited me up. As soon as I confirmed the plans with her, the BF called. He told me that his mother doesn't want me there because she thinks it should be immediate family only. I've never met them, so I know it's not anything personal, but he also asked me to do him a favor and not tell my BFF or her mom the truth about why I can't be there. I don't like the idea of lying to either of them, and I think they'll both be upset that I bailed. Also, I'm a terrible liar, and I don't think it's fair to save his mom face because she's already on thin ice with my friend and her mom. I've been crying about it all day because I was so excited to be a part of it. I think I WBTA if I told her and her mom the truth, because it will cause tension as they'll definitely confront her about it, and they already aren't big fans. BC she meddles and is controlling. Lastly, I told the BF I wouldn't give them the real reason, but I am her friend before I'm his. I don't want to set a negative tone for this new chapter in their lives. I tell BC I don't want my friend to think I didn't want to be there or that I thought something else was more important. I know she will be hurt that I'm not there, and I honestly can't think of an excuse that her mom would accept or believe. My BFF has always been there when I needed her, dropping everything and driving 6 hours or hopping on plane without me asking. I know she'd want me to yell, "Dear best friend's BF invited me to her proposal," but called to tell me I can't go because his mom only wants immediate family present. I'm crushed, and I know my bestie will be sad I'm not there for it. Her and her mom aren't fans of his mom, so he doesn't want me to tell either of them the real reason why I'm not going to be there. But wonder if I did tell her mom the truth.